Why stay?
Because our children have a chance here. That's worth every sacrifice.
How do you survive the freezing winters living in a tent like this? She still had something worth fighting for. How do you keep going?
Because if I don't work tomorrow, I don't eat.
What can you get with $3,000 in New York City? You've probably seen dozens of videos like that all over YouTube. Today, living in New York is basically a symbol of success. But New York wasn't always like this. By the 1890s, New York was exploding in population. Millions of immigrants from Italy, Ireland, Eastern Europe, and many other places were arriving here, all searching for a better life. But this incredible growth created one enormous problem. There simply wasn't enough housing for everyone. While half of the city lives surrounded by wealth, the other half is simply trying to survive in places like this. Neighborhoods that the rest of New York has completely forgotten. These alleyways are so narrow that two people can barely squeeze past each other. The windows are tiny, fresh air hardly gets in, and many of these apartments almost never see direct sunlight. And what's even more unbelievable, an entire family lives inside a room this small. Parents, children, and sometimes even relatives all share the same space to sleep, cook, eat, and work every single day. Imagine spending months living inside a room like this. No ventilation, no privacy, and sharing the same tiny space with so many people. It's not hard to understand why diseases spread so quickly through neighborhoods like these. And what's even more shocking, these tenements are practically right next to Manhattan's wealthiest neighborhoods. In just a few blocks, you can leave elegant streets behind and find families living in conditions that are almost impossible to imagine. What shocks me the most is how many children are working. Most of them should be in school, but instead, they spend their entire day trying to earn a few cents to help their families survive. Some of them spend more than 12 hours working in factories. Others sell newspapers, carry heavy loads, or shine shoes on the streets. It's strange to think that for these children, this was simply what childhood looked like. There were no labor laws to protect these workers. 10, 12, sometimes even 14 hours a day doing back-breaking labor for wages that barely covered the rent. For thousands of immigrants, surviving one more week was the only goal. Most of these families came to the United States filled with hope. They left Italy, Ireland, Germany, and many other countries believing that America would give them the chance to start an entirely new life. But when they arrived in New York, they quickly realized that the only homes they could actually afford were overcrowded tenements like these, where hundreds of people fought for every square foot just to survive. Look at the clothes hanging between the buildings. Since there's almost no space inside these homes, almost every part of daily life ends up happening outside, right here in front of everyone. With so much poverty and so few opportunities, many teenagers ended up joining small street gangs. For some of them, it felt like the only way to earn money or simply survive. This is where people actually sleep. These hanging cloth beds are packed side by side with barely any space to breathe. After working 12 or 14 hours a day, entire families came back here. For thousands of immigrants in 1890s New York, this wasn't temporary. It was home. Winter made everything even worse. Some families couldn't even afford proper housing and ended up living in makeshift shelters like this, just trying to survive the freezing nights. Imagine facing New York's brutal winter with nothing but a canvas tent between you and the snow. Ma'am, how do you survive the freezing winters living in a tent like this? You don't get used to it. Every night we pray the wind stays calm and that the children wake up warm. For immigrant families, education meant hope. Parents worked exhausting jobs so their children could sit in classrooms like this, dreaming of a future beyond factories, poverty, and the crowded tenements they called home. Not every child spent the day in school. Many stayed home, helping their mothers with piecework, making artificial flowers, sewing clothes, or assembling small goods. Every extra penny could mean food on the table. Even in the middle of poverty, children found ways to be children. Empty courtyards became playgrounds, where laughter briefly replaced the struggles waiting for them at home. These small moments of joy meant everything. Can I ask, how much do you pay for this room?
$8 a month. It's almost half my wages.
Excuse me, how many people live here?
6 of us. It's crowded, but it's all we can afford.
Why stay?
Because our children have a chance here. That's worth every sacrifice.
Believe it or not, this isn't a prison. It's actually a police station. Every single night, hundreds of homeless New Yorkers came here just to have a place to sleep. The conditions were overcrowded, dirty, and completely unsanitarious. But for many of these men, this was still safer than spending the night outside on the streets. When there wasn't enough money for a room, the streets became a bedroom. Every night, countless men, women, and children fell asleep under the open sky, hoping only to wake up and survive another day. Behind every statistic, there was a mother like her. She had little food, little space, and no certainty about tomorrow. But as long as she could hold her child, she still had something worth fighting for. Excuse me, do you really sleep here?
Every night, I can't afford a room.
How do you keep going?
Because if I don't work tomorrow, I don't eat.
What's heartbreaking is that many wealthy New Yorkers simply pretended this reality didn't exist. They walked past places like this every day, saw the poverty with their own eyes, and chose to look the other side, carrying on with their lives as if none of it was happening. The more I walk through these streets, the more I realize that every alley holds thousands of untold stories. So many people arrived here carrying enormous dreams, believing America would completely change their lives. Some eventually found that opportunity, but countless others spent their entire lives trapped inside these overcrowded tenements, never escaping the poverty they had hoped to leave behind. The more I walk through these streets, the more I realize that poverty isn't just about having no money. It changes the places people live, their health, their opportunities, and even what they believe their future can be. After getting to know this other half of New York, I'll never look at a city the same way again. Behind the most beautiful avenues and the most famous buildings, there can always be a story that almost no one chooses to tell. Thank you so much for joining me on another journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me create more adventures like this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.